Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Career Hotline, the podcast where we call up on real people with real jobs and get the truth about what they actually do all day. Today, we're diving into a career that's often glamorized, sometimes misunderstood, and always full of animal drama: veterinary medicine. From the outside, being a vet may look like playing with puppies all day, but there's so much more behind the scenes. My guest today is a practicing veterinarian who's here to break it all down: the hard truth, the rewarding wins, the emotional tolls, and yes, the weirdest animals. So, whether if you've thought about working with animals or you just want to hear what really happens in the exam room, stay tuned. This is going to be a good one. So, Dan, welcome to Career Hotline. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Dan. I am 30 years old. I live in Victoria, British Columbia, and I am a small animal veterinarian.
How long have you been in a veterinarian, Dan?
It'd be 5 years now.
5 years? Wow. Do you work in a clinic? Do you do like a mobile setting? Is it something more unique?
I work in a clinic, yeah, so an animal hospital, I suppose. So we pretty much do just small animals at this place. Once you finish vet school, you can kind of do whatever you want, but it just made more sense for me to go into small animal medicine, so here I am.
And what kind of certifications do you have, Dan, for you to be a veterinarian?
I actually just have a vet degree. I don't have an undergrad or anything else. So I took a
Wow.
little bit of a different path.
I want to hear more about this path. Since you said you don't have an undergrad, what was that thought process like, when you got out of high school? Did you always wanted to be a veterinarian? What was
No,
the
no,
career path?
definitely not.
No?
I mean, my family's from Egypt, and growing up, if you're like a first generation Canadian, you
Mhm.
can be a doctor or a pharmacist or an engineer. That's kind of the outlook that they give you.
Wow. I can
Yeah,
relate
didn't
to
realize
that.
that. Yeah, perfect. So then you know what I mean. I
Yep.
didn't really want to do pharmacy and I wanted to do engineering, but I just wasn't good at physics at the time. And so it was just kind of medicine. My parents are actually both vets, so I kind of had a
Oh.
little bit of exposure. Didn't work in a clinical setting, but we knew a lot of people who were vets and, could kind of get some shadowing experience. So I was kind of trying to decide and thought, okay, well, I mean, you might get a little bit more money, maybe some more clout if you're a human doctor. But I did some shadowing and it was just super fun. It was really cool to do surgery or kind of sit in with surgery and then go out in the truck the afternoon and go see horses and that kind of thing. So I decided to try to do vet school. I went to a local university, Guelph, which has the vet school in Ontario, where I'm from. That first year was super fun. It was basically a lot of partying, a lot of first time away from home, and just kind of meeting
Mhm.
people and getting used to being kind of an adult on your own, kind of semi. So my grades weren't the best, and I was kind of looking at how do you get in and what is the way to do this. So I pretty much just sat down with a pencil and some paper and just went through all of the vet schools in the world that are accredited. So once you graduate there, you can work anywhere. And New Zealand just kind of bubbled up to the top. It was just one competitive semester without having to do any sort of undergrad or anything like that. And you just shoot your shot and you kind of go from there. It's a little more expensive. So after a year, I went to New Zealand to do vet school there.
How long is vet school?
Typically, it's 4 years.
Mhm.
In New Zealand, it's 4.5, I suppose, after the competitive semester. But in general, it's 4 years of the actual vet school section.
Okay. So you went to vet school for 4 years, or did you do 4.5?
I did, I guess, five. So I had to do like the undergrad or the competitive semester and then four and a
Mhm.
half years of vet school.
That's when you graduated with, what does it say on your degree?
BSc, which is like the
Mhm.
equivalent to DVM, Doctor of
Mhm.
Veterinary Medicine here in North America. They just
Okay.
have Bachelor of Veterinary Science over in New Zealand.
Walk me through when you did graduated. What was your first
Yeah,
job out of school?
the vet school, it's actually, I mean, really easy to get a job as a vet.
Mhm.
There's vets pretty much needed everywhere for all sorts of stuff. They will try to typically poach you while you're in school too, to just make sure that you're kind of lined up.
Mhm.
So I had a job probably 6 months before I finished, and so I
Nice.
finished in New Zealand in December, and I started working in January. So pretty quick turnaround. I regret that a little bit, but it was good at the time. So I started working small animal in Nanaimo, which
Mhm.
is a town that's a little north of where I live now, actually. And it was cool. I mean, you get to pick on a map where do you want to go, and you can kind of just look and see. I did interviews all over North America, in the US, Canada, East Coast, West Coast, and just trying to decide where do I want to go, what do I want to do. You can do large animals, small animals, zoo animal, whatever you want, kind of thing. And this just kind of made the most sense. I think coming out of school, you kind of want a good job package where you have some time off and you can kind of rest a little bit. Certainly, it wasn't restful, but I didn't have to do on call with this job, which was big.
Let's talk about your hours now. When you go to work, how many hours do you work? What time do you start and what time do you end?
Most of the time, my shifts are 8 to 5 ish.
Okay.
Ish is kind of the operative word. I mean, you can be good
Yeah.
at getting out on time, but if something comes in at 4:30 and it just like it's an emergency or it's a I had a block cat last week or whatever it may be, you just got to stay and finish what you're
Yeah,
doing.
makes sense.
So it depends. Most of the time it's pretty good, but of course, all the time we get stuff that happens.
Now, when it comes to benefits, and obviously you don't work in the United States, so I'm curious to see how this works. What are the benefits that comes with being a veterinarian?
Obviously, so in Canada, our healthcare is public, of course. You get extended health benefits. So you'll get like a massage or like counseling
What?
or chiropractic, like that kind of thing. Dental, like there's 80%, it's a copay kind of system. So they'll pay, I
That's
think,
amazing.
80% for the most of it. And then your typical stuff, you get like your PTO, 3 or 4 weeks, depending on where you are and what you're doing. And then there's like pet discounts for your pet at the clinic, all
That's
sorts of
nice.
probably small things that I glaze over now, but I was really excited about
Mhm.
5 years ago.
What kind of pets do you have?
I've got one large dog, a Loki.
Mhm.
He's like a big,
Low-key, are you
yeah,
a
he's a
Marvel
rescue.
fan?
I like Marvel. Yeah, he's just he's a chaos kind of boy. So he's a
Oh,
husky type dog, and he's escapes. He's mischievous, so it kind of made sense.
that is perfect. You mentioned that you do work in a small animal clinic. So what are some examples that you kind of run into?
I would say it's almost all dogs and cats, to be honest. I think people think they're like, oh, you're gonna see
Mhm.
like a sugar glider or something. It's like most of the
Love
time,
those.
no. Right? It's almost all dogs and cats. We have some clinicians that work with us that do more pocket pets, like guinea pigs or hamsters or like a quail or something random like that will occasionally come in.
Quails? Mhm.
Yeah, and we have some people who have like pet chickens or whatever else that will
Mhm.
come in. But for the most part, it's kind of broken down into you do companion pets, mostly small animal. You can do
Mhm.
exotics, which is all sorts of weird stuff, snakes and things,
Yes.
or large animals. And then there's mixed jobs also, where you do kind of some and some.
Do you have what's the weirdest animal that you've taken care of?
Since practicing, probably nothing super weird.
Mhm.
In school, when I was in New Zealand, they have a something called Wild Base, which is I guess where a lot of the wildlife will go to in the vet school there. So we would see kind of certain cooler animals, I guess,
Mhm.
reptiles and all sorts of weird birds that will kind of show up for whatever needs to be done there.
Did you ever had any animal that you feared?
Then I feared, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Like a
you
big,
do?
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
big scary dog is not nice. Aggressive dog that's wants to mess you up is never a good feeling.
Yes. Do you have any reptiles or exotic animals that you would be afraid to take care of?
No, no, I don't think I'm
Okay.
scared of like the animal by itself. It's just if
Mhm.
that individual one is really like angry for
It
some reason, then that yeah,
makes
it's you got to
sense.
be careful for sure.
I've seen a lot of those since you do see cats that are afraid of the doctors and they have to, like, do all types of crazy stuff. Have you ever had to deal with one of those?
Yeah, for sure. Like you'll get
Yeah.
welder's gloves oftentimes, and like we'll try to get them, wrap them up, but
Mhm.
they can be mad. They can definitely be pretty angry.
Yeah, I don't blame them. Doctors are scary.
Yeah, well, make it easy on us.
So you do work essentially Monday through Friday, correct?
No, I actually do 4 days a
Okay.
week. So I do Wednesday to Saturday is my shift. So I have an evening shift on Wednesday, like a 1 to 8,
Mhm.
which is kind of nice. And then kind of earlier days the rest of them. But it's nice. That way I have 3 days off in a row. So if I want to get some stuff done, never camp, travel, that kind of stuff, it's a little easier.
Yeah. So you do have a pretty good work-life balance in this industry.
It's better. Yeah, it's definitely
It's
better
getting
these
better?
days for sure. Yeah. I think as you grow on your profession too, when you first start, everything's so overwhelming and you're so mentally tired.
Mhm.
But then after time, you know, you get a little bit better at what you're doing, and it gets a little easier to kind of set some boundaries and know what you actually need to do.
Yes, I think that applies to a lot of other industries too. But at the end of the day, I think that's the most important is do you have a life after work? And it sounds like you're getting there, which is good. So, Dan, we're going to play a quick game. I'm going to describe some common pet owners' behavior, and you
Okay.
tell me if this is a green flag or a red flag.
All right.
Okay. First one, your client brings in their dog in a stroller. Green flag, red flag.
Red flag immediately. Red flag.
Do you want to elaborate?
Yeah, I mean, those dogs that don't touch the ground, those are always like they're a problem. They have like it's trouble to handle them, and they almost get treated like a little princess or something. So that when you actually
Yes.
need to do something, it becomes difficult, and you can just kind of
Oh,
tell like they're whiny, like they're like it's like a spoiled child.
yeah. I never
Yeah,
thought about that way. Dogs
it's the
needs to be
worst.
on the ground. Put them on the
You think
ground.
so? Yeah, you think so?
Next one, client refuses to vaccinate their dog or cat, but they want surgery.
But they want surgery? Beige? Like it's orange flag? I don't know.
Mhm.
It's not a huge deal. Like, I mean, if you have really strong opinions, then so be it.
Mhm.
But I think I'm
Yeah.
gonna lean more towards red flag if I had to pick between the
Yeah.
two. If they need surgery, they need surgery. But if they don't want vaccines, then that's up to them, I guess.
Yeah, it's their own decision.
Yeah, I
When
guess
a
so.
client calls you, this is just a dog, doctor. Red flag or green flag?
I'll probably go red flag. I don't think
Mhm.
it's necessarily wrong to see them just as a dog, but if you're gonna say that to me on the phone, there's probably a little more going on.
I agree. This one's interesting because I have my personal opinion, but when a client feeds their dog or cat vegan food, vegan
Cat,
diet.
definitely red flag.
Yes.
Dog, I can live with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's a green flag, but it's fine. It can do it. But a cat, no, that's a huge red flag. You can't have a cat. That's it. Cats are carnivores,
Yeah.
so
They
you
need to
can't do that.
eat meat.
Yeah, they'll get heart disease and then they'll get sick and they'll die. That's the rules. You can't just have a vegan cat. That doesn't exist.
And dogs.
A dog, yeah, if you ethically, if that's something that you support, you can do it. They can live. It's
Okay.
okay. Nothing wrong with it.
I love the videos online where it shows a dog with two options in front of them. It's
Hmm.
like meat or lettuce, and then the dog goes for the meat, and the owner's like, "He would never do this. I don't know why he's doing this." You're like shocked.
They're still dogs at the end of the day. We have to remember
Yes.
that. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. When a client shows you Google search results mid visit, green flag, red
I'll go green
flag.
flag, honestly. I think at least they've done their
Mm-hmm.
homework, which is good. So they're like
Yeah.
trying on their own. I think
Mm-hmm.
when they come in and they say, I Googled it and it's this, that's a red flag. If they come with a diagnosis on their own. But if
Yeah.
they've like, hey, I tried and this is what I got so far, that's okay. You're trying.
Okay. Green flag then. What's your favorite part of your job?
I'd say the variety for
Mhm.
sure. It's fun. I mean, you get to go to work and you don't really
Yeah.
know what's going to happen. So that's kind of fun. Even what they say on the appointment form,
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily follow what it is. So
Yeah.
I think it's good. I really wouldn't like sitting in a room all day on my computer. And this is cool. You get to interact with animals, and it's different every day, which keeps you engaged.
Yeah. I would never be bored at a job like that.
Yeah, you can't turn off. Good and bad.
Do you have a moment where it made it all worth it?
I think sometimes you truly do like bring things back from the edge a little bit, and you do save them, and it is nice because, especially nowadays, it's not just a dog all the time; it's people's family
Mhm.
in a way. So
Yes.
it is nice sometimes when you actually do catch something and really fix it and make a big difference. Those are cool moments for sure.
Do you have one in particular that you want to share?
And then I want to share.
Mhm.
Sure. I mean, maybe something more recent. Let's think. Yeah, we had this dog Shaggy. He was a good dog. He came in a couple years ago. He was super sick and just like withering away. He's a big kind of golden doodle type
Mhm.
dog, but just was really not doing well, wouldn't eat. I took some blood from him, and his liver enzymes were super off the wall. Same thing with his kidney enzymes, and he was just really not doing well. I think he was going to die. And the owners were awesome. They're still really good owners and good clients of mine now, but
Mhm.
they wanted to do everything that they could do, and we put him on all sorts of medications for a few days. He spent maybe 4 or 5 days in the hospital. and just kind of every day would go home, try to eat a little bit, come back, we'd do more things and more therapy, more medication, that kind of stuff, and take more blood, just see how he's doing. And he turned a corner. He did really well, and he lived for another I think 2 or 3 years. So he did really well. Age gets us all at some point, but he was just a nice dog. Like he was super happy, very affectionate, like just a good boy. So it was nice to see him turn around. And the owners, they're this older couple,
Oh my
and they're
goodness.
awesome.
Breaks my
They've just been
heart.
really good clients of mine, and you create a pretty good bond with those people, and it
Yeah.
becomes more than just about money, business, that kind of stuff. It's I give her a hug when she comes in. Like they're nice clients of mine. We're friends now.
How old was the dog when
It's probably
it
like
was staying
10,
over?
something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. How long do Goldens live? Way past that. Golden Doodles.
Depends, golden doodles. I
Mhm.
mean, it depends on the size. He's a bit of a bigger
Mhm.
one, but I mean, anywhere from 11 to 13.
Okay.
You obviously get some outliers, but something in that
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Hopefully my dog lives like 20
Forever.
years
That's the
plus
spirit. Yeah.
forever. What is the hardest part of being a vet emotionally or ethically?
I'd say the hardest part is dealing with clients when money is limited, or if the clients are being stubborn for whatever reason.
Mhm.
And then the patient is suffering. That is a little tough, because
Mhm.
sometimes, even if you don't like the person that's in front of you, or they're being rude or whatever it may be, at the end of the day, if you just fire them, the thing that suffers is the pet. So that can be a little bit of a difficult situation to navigate. And sometimes people just don't have the money for things, even if we're trying to keep things low and help them out and all sorts of stuff. We give tons of breaks, like probably every week. Certainly, I save tons of money for people, but at the
Mhm.
end of the day, services cost money, and we have to be here too. So it's kind of a tough situation a lot of the times. And so, I mean, you try to do the best thing you can. I think the hardest part is when you're doing everything and you're bending over backwards, you're staying late, you're doing everything that you need to do, and the client spits in your face. It's just that's I think a reason that a lot of vets leave their jobs. So.
When you say when the client spits in your face, you don't mean that
No, not
actually,
literally.
right?
Sorry, that's
Yes.
a maybe figure of
No,
speech,
I
but
get
let's
that.
say, yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah,
Have you ever cried at work after a case?
ever cried at work? I don't think I've cried
Mhm.
at work. No.
Oh, you're
Not
strong.
not for something like this, no. No,
Mhm.
I mean, certainly other vets do. I'd say most, and a lot of stuff, all of my staff has, but I don't think
Yes.
that's just maybe just because I'm a dude. I'm not gonna do that. And you're a
Mhm.
little bit of a leader when you're at work and in the vet role,
Makes
so
sense.
you want to try to be obviously kind of keep things calm and steer the ship a little bit.
Mhm. Have you worked at the same practice for 5 years? I forgot to ask you that.
No, this is my third
Okay.
job.
Okay. 3rd job, 5 years total. Okay.
Yes,
Do clients sometimes treats their pets better than people?
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. You'll get people who come in like, well, what do you feed them? And then,
Mhm.
yeah, I make a venison dinner for him every
Oh
night, or like
my
it's that. Yeah, there's
goodness.
people
That's
who do all
awesome.
sorts of stuff. Yeah, so
Wow.
sometimes like the pets are eating better than me for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if you're on TikTok, Dan, but there's this really rich woman and she has a chef that curates pet food every day. And they are like super nice food, like quail, eggs, and caviar, and all that type of fancy stuff that I would
Crazy.
not even afford.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I can afford that. That's crazy.
Did you had a specific moment where you were like, I don't want to be a veterinarian anymore?
I think sometimes like any situation, you're just down bad. I've had a client, they just get mad at you, or they're being
Mhm.
unreasonable, and you've had a string of them in a row. It's tough. Sometimes it's just kind of tough to do, and you kind of sit like, I think a lot of vets feel this way, where you pour a lot into your job, you're a professional, you went to school for so long, and sure, maybe I did a
Mhm.
little less, but some people who have gone to school for 8 years, 10 years, that kind
Right.
of stuff, they build up tons of debt, as have I, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you're
Yeah.
stuck in this job that it pays the bills. That's great, but you're on the hook for all this money, and you kind of sit there until you're done at the very least. And then this is kind of what you do, for better or for worse. This is your craft, the path that you've chosen in life. So it can be tough. And I think a lot of vets are lifers. You talk to people, why do you want to become a vet? Oh yeah, I was a little girl and I loved it and I wanted to be a vet since I was 3. I mean, fantastic, but it comes with a sense of identity. So I think
Yeah.
if you do that job and suddenly you find it's maybe not the puppies and kittens that you thought it was.
Mhm.
It can be tough, and people kind of really they identify, I'm a vet, that's kind of who
Mhm.
I am. So if you're not a
Mhm.
vet, then who are you? What are you? So it can be difficult for a lot of people. I think I'm maybe less attached to it, but overall, I mean, jobs are jobs. They're not things that necessarily you wake up every single day and you love. There are hard parts, and you have
Yes,
to
absolutely.
admit that and really kind of just be a little resilient. Sometimes it's not going to be easy, and that's just the rules.
Yeah. There's not gonna be any I don't think there's any job out there where every day is rainbows and butterflies. There's always gonna
Even if
be
you're a creative and
something.
you love and I make art and I love it, it's like, well, you got to
Yeah.
sell the art, and then someone's gonna be annoying, and they're gonna ask for that. Like it's not
Yes.
nothing is simple like that.
What's the craziest thing a pet owner has ever asked you to do?
And ask me to do probably put down a healthy animal, maybe would be a
Stop.
thing to say. Oh yeah, definitely with like cats that are like peeing on people's couches and whatever. They'll just get really frustrated, and it's a 6-year-old cat. And you also like you work in the public. There's some crazy people, and they'll just kind of like, yeah, I think it's just time to put my cat down. And I'm like, why? And then they kind of give me not a good reason, and the cat's fine, and there's nothing wrong. No, I'm just saying no.
Mm.
I'm not doing this. Yeah.
And can you
Yeah,
refuse?
I refuse. No,
Okay.
for sure, I refuse. Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, you one of the good parts of the job is you have autonomy and you can kind of decide for the most part like what's reasonable. And no, I'm
Yeah.
just not doing that. Or like a young dog or something. Like, no, we're just not doing those things. So of course, there's situations where it's reasonable, but yeah, for sure, if you're gonna come in hot like that, just it's just not gonna happen. You got to do some stuff first, or you can surrender. There's lots of options. We're not just gonna put
Mhm.
down random animals.
Okay, that's good. I'm thinking
Yeah.
that you're obligated to still do what the client asks you to do, but
No,
you
thank
have a
God.
choice. Yes.
Otherwise, it would be a dark world. Yeah, for sure.
Have you ever had to call animal control or report any neglect?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, there was actually 2 sides of the coin. One dog that was, like, totally just skin and bones, like, the person just wasn't feeding it. And it's
Mhm.
one thing if you don't feed it good food and quail and caviar and whatever, but they were just like weren't feeding it basic dog food and not enough, and like the dog was just sick, and it kind of became a point of neglect. And we talked to them about it. Hey, you got to do something about this, and you give them a couple chances, but they just weren't listening. No, it's just a dog, whatever. So in that case, yeah, we kind of called somebody on them. And then actually the
Mhm.
opposite, where we had this little tiny min pin, a miniature fincher, I guess,
Mhm.
and they were feeding it bacon and eggs every single day, which sounds great, but as you can imagine, the dog was like ginormous, like it was sick,
No.
like the dog was not
Yeah,
doing
that's
well.
abuse.
Yeah, so it's kind of the other side of it of like I know you love whatever Fifi, but you can't do this. There's the line kind of thing, and they just same thing
Mhm.
wouldn't listen, and it's like we need to get somebody involved here. The dog's going to suffer.
That's
All
so
right, you didn't expect that one.
yeah, I'm shocked at the fact that you know that an animal has a certain diet that they need to eat, but you are refusing to give that to them. And I like how you have like the opposite ends. Like you have one end where they don't eat enough and the other end where they eat too much.
Right.
And it's not even the food that they're supposed to eat.
No, no, I
It's
know.
horrible. So did you call the animal control to their address or you
We kind of gave them their information, and
okay.
again, this was after lots of like
Mhm.
talking with them, seeing them over and over, making it clear, making a plan, like really trying to do everything we could on our end. Then eventually we called the Humane Society, I believe, and we were just like, this is this person, this is their information, because obviously they're clients, so we have like their phone number and email and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it went.
Was there any altercations that happened after
Not with
what
me, I don't know.
happened?
I left it,
Okay.
it went out of my hands, and I never really saw them again. So I'm not sure
Okay.
what the outcome of it was, but I hope good for the
Good.
dog. That's all I can say.
Yes. Have you ever seen something shady or unethical in the field?
In the field, I don't think I've seen them firsthand, but you hear kind of some
Mhm.
wild stories. A lot of them don't have to necessarily do with pets. Like I had heard about people will abuse drugs. That's one thing. I mean, we use morphine, we use ketamine, that kind of thing. So you'll definitely hear
Mhm.
about people, staff members who will be, they'll steal a little bit of morphine and just kind of use on their own. Or there was one fellow who was, I think, ordering steroids and selling it to kind of like gym rats basically to because they would buy it for a good price, that kind of stuff. You definitely have like any job or any person, there's abuse of power. that kind of stuff is a little is certainly unethical. It's definitely you can't do that.
It's horrible. You're using your pet as a gateway to get the drugs that
To be
you
clear, those are like
want.
either vets or staff members or something like that. They're actually in the profession. So these are people who are like, you have access to ketamine every day, and you're actually sneaking like a couple sniffs of it every now and again and replacing it with something, which is even worse because then I think we're giving ketamine, but then if the ketamine bottle's saline, pet's not getting any pain control, and that's a problem.
Mhm. Yeah, and you have your patients can't talk, so there's no
No,
way
they
for
don't
you to
know. They just look
track
quiet
that.
and they're just after surgery and I don't know what's going on. So that
Whoa.
hasn't happened personally. I have not seen that. Like my clinic's awesome. I have never really had that issue, but you hear about it all the time for sure.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. That is a I would never think anything like that would ever happen out there, but yeah, there are bad people out there in the world. Let's get into some honest conversations. I think the most important conversation that I want to talk about is financial transparency in the veterinary world. Obviously, schooling, right? Some people go to school, like you said, for 8 years. Some people go 4 to 5 years. What was your student loans like when you came out of college?
If you're doing your undergrad, you have your undergrad fees, whatever that may be. Could be 40,000, 50,000, that kind of thing. Then depending on where you go to school is a large factor in terms of how much you pay. So I think in the US, you guys have the in-state, out-of-state kind of system. So I actually lived with a lot of US students in New Zealand because it was cheaper to go to New Zealand than it was to go out of state wherever they were.
Mhm.
That being said, like, per year in tuition fees, I was probably paying about $50,000 for 5 years. That's you can do the math pretty quick. So 250K. That's not living expenses. That's not my flights. That's not any of the other kind of expenses there. And that, I mean, I finished quickly in 5 years versus, like I said, none of those programs exist in North America. So you're almost always doing an undergrad first and then going to vet school. Now, of course, if you go to vet school in states, it's a little cheaper, but still it'll be another 100,000. So it's expensive for sure.
So on average, people are graduating at least over 100 to 200K in
Yeah,
student debt.
for sure.
Wow. Something that people really should think of more before they get into it, right? I think a lot of people see the finish line, but they don't think of these things to get there. So think about that before you jump into a career long term. Do you think you will start a clinic in the future?
Plans to start one in probably 6 months or so. So
Uh,
it's on its way. It's being built.
That's
I made
amazing.
yeah, taking that leap. So it
Hmm.
will come. So I think it's not for everyone. It depends if you want to deal with the business side of things and the staffing and that kind of thing and take on the risk. But for me, I think it makes sense. That's something that I feel equipped to do. So I'm going to open this clinic with some partners, some of the other vets that I work with now.
Okay.
Hopefully it all works out.
How many other vets will you have?
So it'll be, as far as ownership, it'll be me and three other people. So there'll be four of us owning. And then as far as how many vets we'll have, hopefully we'll probably try to build it up to kind of a 9, 10 number, see where we're at.
Is this a big practice?
That's the plan. Yeah. I mean, where
Yes.
we are currently, we have, I think, 11 vets. So
Oh,
we're a pretty big practice
wow.
already at this place. So we're kind of opening another area in just kind of west of where we are now.
How is that process like? You're 6 months away. Do you want to share some
Yeah.
of the things that you've done to start this practice?
I think there's a lot of parts to it. When you start, you're just an associate, and that is totally suitable for a lot of people. If you
Hmm.
have, like, I have one of our best vets. He's a great dad of the year. Just totally respect him. But he's very much kind of clock in, clock out, spending time with my kids, that kind of thing. He has
Good.
I think his kids are like 5 and 7, so totally like a great time for him to focus on that. But of course, the flip side is, I mean, he's gonna have to probably work for a lot longer and be an associate and just kind of take that employee role. For me, the employer side is a little more appealing. I'm young. I can kind of start this and get my teeth sharp and go for it. As far as what you need to do, I mean, there's so many parts to it. It is hard to start a clinic because you can either buy an existing one, which is pretty expensive, 500,000, a million, that kind of thing, to buy it. But then you have a kind of existing infrastructure, or you can try to open it on your own. But then finding a building to open it up is kind of its own job. So that can take a couple of years. Then, of course, there's like dealing with the developers and a designer and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of steps prior. And one of the biggest parts of the vet industry now that's changing is that a lot of corporations are buying clinics. So let's say, Bo, you are a practice owner, even you're 65 and you're kind of ready to, you know, get on the way out.
Mm-hmm.
You could sell to me for $1 million, but you probably won't because corporate will buy it for 5 million or something like that.
It's
So
like real
it's
estate.
it's like kind of like real estate where I get, but it's just I guess companies will buy them. So it is really hard to be competitive as an individual. You really can't just like, hey, can I buy this off of you unless you have some goodwill or it's in a remote area or something like that. If you're in a city and you're trying to buy a practice, good luck. That's not going to be easy.
Would you say as a client or consumer pet owner, you would say for us to go to a like a mom and pop vet instead of those bigger vets,
In general, I'm going to
commercial?
recommend it. Maybe I'm a little
Yeah.
biased because I work for a private clinic, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
totally. I mean, I think I've seen and heard a lot of stuff from corporate clinics, and there's just a little bit more like, this is how we do things, do the extra x-ray, do the extra treatment, that kind of stuff, which is all good and well. You're definitely going to get good care. There is just maybe a higher chance you'll overpay for that stuff. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, there's bad private owner vets. I've met several, but I would say for the most part, they're good and they're reasonable, and you can kind of build a connection. Like if you're meeting me in clinic, you're bringing in Mushu. I mean, I'm the owner, so if you have
Mm-hmm.
something that we need, or there's something that we want to talk about, we can really figure it out. Versus corporate, there's so many layers kind of above that it's a little bit more rigid. So yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm always going to recommend a private clinic, but at the same time, make sure you get a good one and kind of have some trust with who you're working with.
Yes. What degree, programs, or path are most helpful for future vets?
Future vets.
Mm-hmm.
Any sort of probably science is going to be where you want to end up. I would say vet school and the vet kind of work, there's a lot of memorization. There's a lot of knowledge that you kind of have to have. You'll write tests on all of the animals and all of the diseases. So there's just a lot of, memorizing. So if that's how your brain works, then that's definitely a profession you want to try. I'd say if I could give anyone advice is go into vet clinics and see what it's like before you get into the weeds.
And you can just, what, you just call up a clinic and say, can I
Yeah, shoot
shadow?
them an email,
I'm interested.
volunteer.
Okay.
Hey, my name's Bo. I want to shadow for the summer or something like that. Yeah, I'll do it one day
Mm-hmm.
a week or something. And that's a good way to kind of get an idea of, oh yeah, is this
Will
actually
it
something
work?
I want to do? And do I
Mm-hmm.
like it? You can talk to vets, you can talk to techs, you can kind of see what the industry's like a little bit from the inside.
What is a good starting pay for vets out of vet school?
For like small animal work,
I guess, yeah. Yeah, because that's what is the most popular.
I'd say probably at the moment, like $90,000, something
Okay.
like
First
that.
year.
First
So,
year, yeah, is not unreasonable. Maybe 80,000. Uh,
mm-hmm.
you could do 100. It really kind of depends how hard you want to work with any of those jobs. So if you want to put in more hours and see more cases, make more money. If you want to kind of take it easy and slowly get there, a lot of jobs will offer you a base of like 80,000 and some production bonuses depending on how well.
Okay. What is a pay that a vet tech could start at?
Vet tech's usually
Yeah.
more hourly, so it really kind of depends. Vet techs, honestly, they could use a little bit more money. A lot of them will
Mm-hmm.
be in the mid 20s per hour, depending on where they're at, 26, 20, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Moving up, depending on how well you are. I mean, we have some good techs, they're totally worth their weight, and we pay them well. So
Good.
there's definitely room to grow, and you can become a practice manager, a lead tech,
Yeah.
whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
But you kind of got to start a little bit lower for sure.
Okay. And so you are opening your own practice, I'm
Hmm.
assuming you're going to need a vet tech for your
100%.
clinic. So if you were to interview someone as a vet tech, what kind of questions would you ask them?
My personal opinion is more about fit. That's kind of how I want to hire. I think it's more important that you have a good team. I think that's the case for the vet clinic. It's a hard job. We have to be able to speak candidly with each other. We have to be nice to each other. You have to keep it a little fun, play music, enjoy ourselves. And then also if something's happening, something that's an emergency or someone makes a mistake, that isn't necessarily a huge deal, but we have to be able to be open and talk with each other. Honestly, I'm not worried about your technical skills. I'm not worried about how smart you are. None of that
Mhm.
stuff truly, I think, matters to me. You're smart enough to get your degree, so that's something. It's more about, yeah, what's your personality like? How do you handle situations?
Right.
Are you fun? Like, do I want to work with you? Are you a hard worker? Are you a team player? That
Mhm.
kind of stuff. This is not a regular job where you just get your 30-minute break and that's how it is. If something's crashing, we got to help it out. So
Yeah.
you got to be flexible a bit.
So it's more of the person themselves instead of what their
100%.
abilities are.
100%.
Love that. What are all of the different specialties in veterinarian world?
I'll have to be a little kind of careful with that. So
Mhm.
specialties, I guess you can also be a specialist. So that's its own kind of like after you finish vet school, you can do more schooling and become a specialist, a cardiologist, a
Right.
surgeon, that kind of thing.
Huh.
But for the most part, the branches of vet
Mhm.
medicine, you kind of have companion animal, you have large animal, you have
Mhm.
things like exotics,
Mhm.
and then you have mixed practice, which could be any combination, small equine, small, large animal, exotic, small, that kind of thing. Or you have like government work or administration, that kind of stuff. So a little bit of a different kind of less clinical.
Can you switch in
For
to
sure.
wherever?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so nice.
Yeah. It's a little more flexible than in human medicine where it's like if you're a family doctor, like you're a family doctor. So
Mhm.
unless you want to do something extra, you're a family doctor. For us, I think that's part of the appeal is that you have like kind of whatever you want. And if you find a place that you like or your lifestyle suits, you want to live in the country more, awesome. You want to live in the city more, fantastic. There's pros and cons to all of them. And if you like to be outside, that's great. If you want to do dentals or you're really into surgery or something like that, these are lots of options for it.
Let's end this off with a couple fun questions, and they may be controversial, but what are some animals that you would not recommend to pet owners?
Really high energy dogs, you can have them, just be prepared, is probably my advice.
Mhm.
Vishlas, blue healers, that kind of thing. You just got to be a little bit prepared for that. For some reason, a lot of these brachycephalic breeds, like Frenchies and Pugs, are super popular. They're nice dogs, but they have a lot of health problems. Be financially ready for what you're about to face, is my
Mhm.
advice. I would say most, but if you're prepared, you can have anything. I mean, there's not really like big rules around that.
Yes. And what are some animals that you do recommend for people?
Pick something that suits your lifestyle. I mean, I'm more of a dog guy than a cat guy, but cats are cool. You can have a couple cool cats. As far as in general, I think go see the actual individual pet that you want before you get it. They have
Mm,
personalities just like people. You can have a barky
yes.
dog, or you can have a chill dog, or you can have busy, energetic dog, or one that likes
Mhm.
balls or plays. Go see the one and kind of think about it more like a person rather than just like, oh, it's a doodle. Kind of
Mhm.
think a little bit more individual.
One last question to wrap this up, Dan. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Well, I've always wanted to be a dinosaur when I grew up. That's what I said when I was a kid. So I think you just keep getting bigger and seems like a good life. So something like that. But I'm pretty happy where I'm at right now.
Can you imagine treating dinosaurs in
Not even
as a
close.
vet?
Yeah. I used to work on an ostrich farm when I was in vet school for a couple weeks and
Mhm.
bizarre creatures, just not very smart and huge.
What's
They're
like the
spooky.
dumbest animal? This is
I
not part
mean,
of the
ostrich is
question.
up there.
Yes.
Ostrich is up there. Its brain is smaller than its eye. So it is, and
What?
they're huge. Like we're like 9 feet. Like they're big.
Yes. Their
So, and they're
brain is
strong.
smaller than the eye.
Correct.
What?
Yeah. And I
Okay,
mean, its
so
eye
they
is
are
like this big.
truly
Yeah. They're
dumb.
dumb. Yeah. I've seen, I mean, they just like, they peck at like the plastic. Like they're just not smart
Mhm.
animals, but
What's their purpose to the world? They just I
they're
guess
a wild animal. You mean like as far as farming?
yeah.
You can farm them for like meat, eggs. You can do a lot with the fat that comes out of there. So you can make like soaps and so all that kind of stuff. It's don't worry, it's pretty niche. They're
Yeah.
actually, I mean, they're really hard to like. They don't get a lot of disease. They're pretty resilient, actually. So if you can deal with them, then you can farm them. But it's a lot of
Mhm.
work, and they're not very clever.
Yes. I heard that pigs are very smart,
Super smart,
which is
super smart, yeah,
crazy
and very
because
clean also. Yeah,
you would think the opposite.
No, pigs are super smart. They're like dogs.
Mhm,
Like they play, they have personality. They're and like I said, they're clean. They're very much like they'll go at that
mhm,
end of the pan and not at this one. And like they're nice. They're fun to have
mhm.
around.
I actually always wanted a pet pig, like the
Yeah,
really
well,
small one.
if you're prepared, but if you've done your research
I
and you're
don't
ready,
think I
then you
could
can get one.
deal with the poop.
Fair enough. That's okay. Mushu's enough.
Well, Dan, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining Career Hotline and helping out other people out there that are interested or they just want to hear about the veterinary world. Thanks for listening, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That's a wrap of today's episode of Career Hotline. Huge thanks to our guest Dan for giving us a peek into the real life of being a veterinarian. If this episode made you curious about the veterinary world or give you a new whole appreciation for the people who care for our pets, share with a friend, leave us a review, or tag us on socials at Career Hotline. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep chasing curiosity, and don't forget you're allowed to want more than your 9 to 5. Talk soon.